From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Morning Line with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris here with you on a Tuesday, and an interesting show. I hope you'll bear with us, and you're invited to join in the conversation if you'd like. Many of you who watch this show, I know, probably have younger loved ones, maybe a son or a daughter or a grandchild, maybe, that know more about this than you do, and maybe you hear them talk about it, or you've seen it on the news, and you're wondering, what's it all about? Now, you've heard likely the term cryptocurrency, okay, Bitcoin. We're going to give you some definitions along that. That's part of what this program will be about today, but it's also going to deal with NFTs, which is something that really has become pretty much more or less a craze in semi-circles, and it's getting bigger over the last couple of years. A non-fungible token. What the heck is that, Nick? I am not someone who is very savvy in any of this, but it is opening up new horizons for so many people, not only as investments, but also individuals who maybe are artists that are recognizing this is a new frontier for you maybe to market your product and all of this. What does it all mean? How does it all work? Can't answer all that for you in this hour, but we can try to at least give you a background. I think you should join. I'm excited about this show because it's truly something I know very, very little about and want to learn more. So we have someone who knows this stuff, and I think he'll be good at explaining it. Joshua White is with us. Good to have you on, Joshua. You're assistant professor of finance at Vandy. I guess finance because Bitcoin and the like falls into that realm?
It does, right? It's a currency, so currency and money.
That's a good start for it. For people like, all right, wait a second, I heard Bitcoin all these years, and it's been around in cryptocurrency for a while. Do you mind, just at the start of the show, before we get into, the NFT and how that all works, and NFT is different, give folks just a basic primer, if you would, if you're trying to explain to someone for the first time how cryptocurrency or Bitcoin really works.
Yeah, so let's start at the top, and that is a blockchain. What is a blockchain?
What is a blockchain?
All right, so a blockchain is this open distributed ledger where transactions can be recorded.
Okay, so, in the real world, say in the banking world, that would be what? I mean, if you're dealing in my world of currency, money.
Yeah, it would be a database, perhaps.
Database, okay.
Right, so this blockchain is open so anyone can access it and verify that these transactions take place.
Okay.
And once they're recorded in the blockchain, it's permanent.
Okay.
You can't change it, it's easily verifiable. So, cryptocurrencies, what are they? They are fungible tokens in a sense that it's a token, there's some code that lies on this blockchain that represents that individual coin or Bitcoin.
There's not an actual coin. You see the images, but it's all virtual.
Right. You see the images of it, which is
it looks like a coin or a token I use in an arcade, but those are not what anyone's being paid or getting. It's not paper or tangible money.
Right. So there's a 60-something digit alphanumeric code lying on the block somewhere that represents that coin.
Okay.
And so that coin's unique. There's a limited supply of Bitcoin.
Who creates it?
Bitcoin is created by miners, and so miners use different computers and they solve these really complex algorithms. And as they solve these different algorithms, they're able to mine and create new Bitcoin. But the supply
is just so out of the realm. I mean, I don't even fully understand that. I know we can't get into the more detail, but I mean, I'm trying to equate it with what I know and what most of us do know is I've got a wallet with like dollar bills in it. It no longer is this way, but you just think, okay, the mint prints money, okay. It's backed, or was at one time, by gold at Fort Knox. We know it's no longer that way. But, the U.S. government prints money, and then I get the bills, and that's how it works. So in a way, what you're talking about is, instead of the U.S. government, you have these miners, not minor children, but miners, like they're mining, coming up with algorithms to then create Bitcoin?
Correct. So your example of currency, the U.S. currency, that's what we call fiat money.
Okay.
It's backed by a government, but as you mentioned, it can easily be printed. So if we run into a pandemic and we need to stimulate the economy, we print more money and we inject it into the economy. The allure of Bitcoin is that it's not controlled by a central bank. So it's decentralized. You'll often hear this space referred to as DeFi, or decentralized finance. So there's a limited supply, and so that limit on supply adds to its allure and to its value.
How do you spend it then? Now, let's say my company here at News Channel 5 said, Nick, we are now going to pay you with Bitcoin instead of, what did you call? Fiat money. And I did that. And so all of a sudden they're paying me in Bitcoin, and I get $100 in Bitcoin. And How do I spend it?
Well, right now, for most places, you're going to have to convert it back to US dollars.
How do you do that?
So you can do that through an exchange. There's lots of currency exchanges. If you watch the Super Bowl, there was a commercial for Coinbase that had a QR code circling around the screen.
That was a big commercial people talking about.
Yeah, big interesting commercial. So Coinbase exchanges currencies for you. So they can take US dollars and exchange it into Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency.
Is that kind of like the exchange when I go to Europe and I have to exchange for francs?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're just exchanging currencies.
Okay, and so Bitcoin, one thing I've heard about is it can fluctuate wildly in some point. Some people may at one moment have $1 million worth of Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden something changes where it's dropped down to, 100,000.
Yeah, so the volatility in this price is why your example earlier of taking your salary in Bitcoin, I'm not sure I would advise that just yet.
Okay.
Because the price is really volatile, right? This is still an emerging technology, an emerging currency, and the fact that you can't just spend it freely anywhere adds some frictions. And so if I'm going to have to transact and change from Bitcoin to US dollars, and that price is fluctuating, then it's going to create some risk, I think, of taking that currency.
Is there also risk? I mean, when you talk about the fluctuations and the way it can happen, I'm just wondering, you talk about these miners who can create it. I mean, is there room here for just fraud? I mean, how do I know if what I'm getting is real Bitcoin? I guess you have to look at the ledger and see, and is that how that works?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the blockchain, and so I like to call it this dichotomous feature in that the blockchain is fully transparent. You and I can go and look and make sure.
Where would I see that? I would go online and to, for instance, Bitcoin. And
see, this is the thing. So Bitcoin is decentralized. So there's not a website that hosts the block. The block is on several computers. Okay. And so you can seek out verification using your code that links to your wallet.
Okay.
And it can verify that that Bitcoin indeed belongs to you.
Okay. It's just so different, but I think as you get used to it more and talk about it, you get an idea of it. Now, the reason I wanted to lay out Bitcoin, and I know many of you still don't fully understand it, but we know it's a currency. It's becoming more and more accepted. I think you told me just as you sat down that El Salvador has made Bitcoin its currency. I don't know what their currency was prior to that. But El Salvador now is virtual currency?
They've adopted Bitcoin as their currency, and so they've exposed themselves as a country to these fluctuations in prices.
How is that working out? Is it so far?
Well, so far they've followed a strategy that a lot of retail investors like to call buy the dip. So every time Bitcoin goes down, they purchase more of that currency and inject it into their economy. It's still very risky.
Okay, it's still risky. The U.S. government's not going to do that anytime soon.
I don't see it anytime soon. And in fact, some governments have talked about issuing their own virtual currency.
Virtual currency. Oh, okay. All right. So Bitcoin, we wanted to lay that out for you because that takes us to the non-fungible tokens, which I think, to me, is a little more easy to understand. The difference is Bitcoin is fungible, meaning that you can exchange it. I can give you a Bitcoin, you can give one back to me. They're of equal value. NFTs are what? I mean, I know it stands for non-fungible token. It means you can't exchange it. They're not of equal value. It would be a piece of artwork? It would be...
It can be linked to anything. So in your example, the Bitcoin is a fungible token. So there's some code that lies on the blockchain that represents the Bitcoin. The non-fungible token, the NFT, means that it's unique. There's only one of those NFTs represented on the block. So I like to think of it as a certificate of ownership that's unique. It's not, you can't divide it, you can't replace it, and so its value comes from whatever it represents. And it can represent art.
Okay, it could be a piece of artwork that's virtual.
Correct, it could be virtual, but it can also represent things in what they call IRL, in real life. Access to content. There was a house that was sold, and instead of selling the real estate, they sold the NFT that represented ownership in the real estate.
Oh, okay, so it could be, she's putting up a list here of NFT examples. Let's walk our way through there. Unique digital artwork, you touched on that. A unique sneaker, say in a limited fashion line. As a matter of fact, I kind of printed that up. Leave that up there for a minute, Mary Elena. But to commemorate Steph Curry's record-breaking three-point shot, Under Armour created a digital replica of the shoe he wore when he made that shot. And the digital asset allows buyers to outfit their avatars. If you have a picture of yourself online or something like that across various digital platforms with that shoe. And it sold out in 30 minutes at a price of $333 each. Okay, all right, we're going to get to that one in a second. And there is the shoe. All right, so why would I buy a virtual shoe for $330? So that, because my friends can see my avatar, which is online. An avatar is a representation of what you may look like, and you could have it on your screensaver or whatever, with that shoe on.
Yeah, so the value of a non-fungible token can come from your ownership or access to content, but there's a third component, which is exactly what you touched on, in that in this digital or social media space, I can sort of flex by saying I own one of the Steph Curry's
kind of the same way
shoes.
I would if I actually bought a real pair of those shoes and put them on and walking around. In the virtual world, there's so many people out there. This is your chance to show I've got a pair.
Correct.
Now, what would keep, and I'm going to let you answer this when we come back. And again, if some of you are into this, I'd love to hear from you. If you're just learning, I understand if we don't get the calls. But what would stop me from just right-clicking and making a screenshot of that shoe and using that instead? I can't do that with a real pair of shoes. I have to actually go buy them, but I can put that in my avatar. We'll answer that and why it would be worth paying $330 for an avatar of Steph Curry's shoe right after this with our guest. Interesting stuff. Stay with us.